G'day and welcome back for more Survival Impossible. And me doing what I hope, actually no, me doing what is going to be the last teardown of this build. I am not going to be tearing this one down again, but I am tearing it down now because in between the comments and some thoughts I've had during the past week, I have some much better ideas on how to put this together, ones that are going to look better, function better, and just make me happier. So, the main reason I decided to go for another complete redesign was that I had been kind of thinking about this thing in mostly the wrong way. Instead of thinking of it as a big greenhouse with a couple of trees in it and a space that could be almost an internal park, I was hoping it would be that, while simultaneously constraining its proportions by attaching buildings on either side of it. And that doesn't really work. I need it to be a big volume if it's going to feel like a park on the inside. It needs to have that space for me to move around the trees, and if you look down there, there's actually not much space. I have basically butted up against the tree on every single side. So I need to make that space bigger. And my thoughts on how to do that kind of came about because of looking at some of those big geodesic dome type greenhouses that are out there and wanting to build something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an octagonal-ish structure around those trees and then attach a building to just one side of it. That'll mean that the building is not going to dictate the size of the dome, and also that the building won't end up so big that I struggle to fit it. To fit it? No, to fill it. So I'm going to tear this stuff down, and I'm going to probably start from the same grid that I'm working on because it does line up almost perfectly east to west. So the sun will always be shining on those trees, and that's what I want. And was semi-deliberate, like I always intended it to face roughly east, but I didn't actually check it out before I placed it. But it turns out I placed it pretty accurately for being direct east to west. It's a little bit off, you can tell by the shadows on it from those trees in the distance, but not too bad. Certainly good enough that there is always going to be light on those trees. I also decided that I really don't like this style of window that I came up with. Turns out when you weld these up in a creative world, when you're fiddling around with design ideas, it looks horrid. Like, it looks proper bad. Yeah, not a good look. Kind of interesting from a lighting point of view because you get those shafts of light coming through the windows, but when it's up against a lot of other glass-based structures, it just doesn't create that same feeling in the structure as it would if you used regular glass. So, regular glass it is. And I should probably have turned on my HUD earlier, just in case my oxygen started running low. So keep our HUD up now. I'm going to jump ahead to when I've got this ready to go to start laying out the structures that I want, so I can talk through what my ideas are around those. So this time, rather than kind of working it out, I feel pretty confident that I've got the ideas that I need so that I can make what it is that I wanted to make. So before I ground down the whole build, what I'd done was added a couple of extra blocks out this way. The reason I wanted that is I did like the dimensions of the building that I'd put down in terms of the width. I think it worked quite well, and I wanted to create an extra couple of blocks between the building and the trees, since one of the most common suggestions I got was to have some sort of balcony that people could sit at and overlook the tree, and I think that will be a very nice touch for a building like this. And so I wanted to be able to create enough space to do that. So, similarly to before, I think I'll go 4 blocks wide for the building, and then to kind of match up to the other builds, I'm going to do our half block bits on the outside. The nice thing I like about this now is by putting these half block slabs on the outside, I can paint them a different color. So I could make them rusted, the rest of it not, to still have a little bit of that rusted worn look, But for the more used parts of the building, keep them in a fresher coat of paint. So I think that'll be kind of handy, or kind of good. I'm also thinking I am going to dig into the terrain here. So I reckon we might make this a ground floor. Yeah. Right, might need to move Manny because I don't think he's lighting this space up very well. At least his batteries are still holding up nicely. 5 days worth of power. Cool. That's a little bit nicer. Gotta make sure I keep the lights on. I should probably bring the Goofy down and do the cross lights like I'd done when I was building the other stuff earlier, but I think this will still manage. I think we'll still manage with this. Now, I had a thought. Because of this grassed area, and because of me wanting to create a bit of a barbecue area sort of thing, if I pave this bit down here, it'll mostly cover up the snow that's on the inside and keep me with just this weird grass stuff. Plus, it'll allow me to place down things like the couches, and if I just continue this layer of blocks all the way through to the back, it should be deep enough that if I drill up from underneath, I won't hit those trees, and I'll have a nice, definite, airtight space to work with. And a bit easier as well, having something like something in a floor like this. And it might be the first time in a very long time I've come up with a build where I could actually use some of that wood texture in a way that might look alright. I've seen some other people do it, and I've just never quite managed to pull it off, I think. Now, if we have a look from down here just to check if this is going to be big enough. Yeah. So you can feel the difference here because I'm able to stand back from the tree and look up at the whole thing without craning my neck like I would have had to before, which would have been this is as far back from the trees as I could get. And while it makes the trees seem more dominating, I think this view makes them seem more interesting. So it is far and away my preference. I guess the idea will be if I'm going to drill out for this floor, I drill out, down, and I start doing the underground stuff. Perhaps I should do the underground stuff overnight, since I can't see anything anyway. I've got to lay out the rest of this kind of area around here though, first. Oh, also, a lot of people suggested I should keep this drop pod, and yeah, why not? I will keep the drop pod by the tree because it's a miracle that it didn't knock him down, but I will take all the iron out of it. So this will be the only bit of snow that's on the inside. A few people suggested that maybe when I'm doing the bit of voxel painting and stuff like that around the other buildings to do the snow drifts and do the pathways between the buildings, I should also paint in here, and I reckon I will. I reckon I'll make this snowy area turn into this same grass as here. Or, if you reckon I should make it in the earth-like grass, let me know, because I might put a poll up on Twitter or something like that when I'm ready to do that stage. Because I think it could be interesting to either do this in the alien one that's already there, or do it in the earth-like one, to show the alien trees with the earth-like grasses. I thought there was something wrong here. Oh, I think I just got really lucky. I was hearing some clanging noise coming from the garage, and if that snapped off, then this must have been flung around quite violently. If nothing's destroyed, that is a miracle. Alright, let's get the Livesy out of here. He's clearly not happy sitting there. At least move it to there. Get away from this hole, because something around here was, yeah, not good. Phew, that was, yeah, terrifying. Hearing this noise just coming from this place. I need you in good nick. Also, cool. The battery is 98.8% charged. Oh, quickly. Info. Let's see. So I reckon this is going to be the biggest grid of the lot. Yep. There we go. There comes a point with subgrids that even I fear. So this is going to be the front of the building. My plan would be to put the airlock on the outside. Since the airlock takes up such a big amount of space, I'd prefer it to be that way. Then I've got an idea of how far I can go back into the mountain in terms of digging to start tunneling underneath and placing down the blocks for air tightness. Okay, time to drill. I think. I guess. Oh, it makes me so nervous drilling. Because I've been so careful of all of the various bits of the terrain around here. I gotta do this because I gotta get underneath and I have to get down to where those blocks are. I'm also gonna have to... Oh, that's the other challenge, is make it so that I can get out. I'm sure I can drill down there, but if I drill down in a way that means I can't climb back out, I'm in big, big trouble. I do have some steel plate on me, so I can build myself a ramp at least. My thought was I'll build a little spiral down underneath, and then I'll try and get underneath where these blocks are, and that way I can go back to line up with that rear wall there. As long as I can measure out how many blocks I need. This is why I had been thinking of that projector thing, but I decided it might be a bit more fun to do it without having gone into making one. I should be, judging by where I've dug, on this row. I need to go down the top one I can see, plus 1 and 2, and then I can go underneath that row. Top row, plus 1 and 2, and then underneath that. Alright, I need to go a bit deeper. I'm definitely going to need build info on this save once I get this done, because I think it's going to be next to impossible otherwise to figure out where any air leaks might be, especially if some of them have ended up underground. Oh no! Mosquito inbound! Oh no! No, no! Bad, 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 bad! Come on! I realized the problem with where I was standing, because I don't know that its path is going to take it past the guns. I think I'm best to run around this way. It is closing fast. If I run around this way, it should fly past... Oh no, I forgot the crawler was out here. I was trying to drag it away from any important vehicles, and since it's coming from this side... Oh... So I still haven't updated the tech yet. It still shoots straight at me. Whoa. So that's why I was trying to drag its fire away from anything sensitive. And thankfully, it looks like I can dodge the fire fairly effectively if I'm moving around. Which is one of the things I really love about the targeting tech that Lucas put in for those drones. It doesn't hit you every single time. It makes the fights much more exciting if ducking, dodging, and weaving is an effective strategy. Now, let's delete those previous 2 GPSs I made and create another one just to check where I am lining up above. See how much further I need to go. I think I'm also going to have to weld up a lot of this as I go just to prevent me from blocking my exit. Or blocking my access to certain blocks. Since my plan is just to build one flat surface on the bottom, and then the 2 walls as well. It could be a bad plan. I think it's probably the right way to go. I'm doing some left-click drilling at the moment to try and just barely pop up to the back of the block above. Because the backside, or at least the back from this orientation, is the highest side in terms of the terrain. If I can see that block, I'll feel much more confident that I'm filling in these gaps properly. Initially for this wall, what I was doing was I was going through using GPS markers and doing all that, but it was taking so long to do things that way, and I would like to get on and do some other projects, so I might have been sneakily using a little bit of the spectator cam to make it a bit quicker. So if I jump into spectator, you can see exactly where I'm at, and it'll also make it much less likely that I'm going to leave any leaks. There are ways you can sneakily get a view like this through the voxels. If you stick a chair upside down, or you stick a chair at an angle where your head is through the voxels, when you jump into the chair, you can actually see through to the behind the voxels like I can with the spectator here. And so if you wanted to do it on a server where you don't have spectator cam available to you, you can use that as an alternative means of seeing it through stuff that you might not otherwise be able to. And it's the thing that I only found out because Capac did it, which probably surprises no one. He ended up in a chair that was seeing through the voxels, and we realized that it was kind of weird. But until this moment, I hadn't thought of a legitimate use for that ability. And so now there sort of is. Don't know that I'll ever actually use it, because the expense of putting down the chairs everywhere that I would need to for this is probably a bit too much, but still, interesting nonetheless, I thought. The other nice thing about this is I'm much less likely to pop through the surface because I can dig lower than I would otherwise have done and still get the blocks exactly where I need them to fill in this back wall. We're making progress, and hopefully this will be done by morning so I can get back to building outside when it's daylight, since there's no real advantage to building down here in daylight. But there is outside, especially for the time-lapse. Actually, that chair thing, I wonder if that's changed. It has been a while since well, we did it. Could have changed. Don't think it has, though. I am going to go do something I should have done at the beginning, and that I'm likely to do for other big projects like this. Let's go grab Manny and use Manny to bring down a whole lot of resources. Not in Manny, but actually inside that yellow container that I had hooked up for the Searchy. Because I should be able to pick it up with Manny's forks, load it up with a whole bunch of steel plate. That's going to save me having to run back to the... Ooh. Let's drop those before I pass by those solar panels. Yeah, I should be able to fill this up. I just hope that Manny's heavy enough to counterweight this. How much can Manny resist? How many have I got in there now? 700. Might just take 1,000. We'll see how we go with that. Got the rear wheels set to a softer suspension because I did that to pitch the headlights where I wanted them. I may need to stiffen them up, but it should in some ways be helping me tilt backwards. Yep, that looks good. Yeah, that'll work. That brings me, well, saves me a lot of walking back and forth because I'm going to have to keep welding up the blocks as I go. Oh dear. That's smoking. Did I... Oh, I damaged it. No! Okay, that didn't work. I thought I was being gentle. I'll have to repair that block now. Seemed like a good idea at the time. I will keep attempting to do that sort of thing to try and get stuff around with Manny, but I think I'm going to have to work it out a bit better than I just did, because that didn't work at all. Okay. I have completed one loop underground. Now the rest should be a lot easier to put down, because I just got to keep going down until I hit the level that I was at before, and then dig all through the middle. A number of you are probably wondering why I'm doing the double up on the blocks here. I don't actually need to, but I just fear the situation of me messing one of the block placements up and not being able to create air tightness because of it. So I'd rather spend a little bit of extra steel under here and put down full blocks rather than half slabs, and put down the double slope across there rather than a single piece, just in case. It's probably me being overly cautious, but I still think it's the right thing for me to do at the moment. Now let's go repair that large cargo container, because even having to repair it, I reckon I've saved myself some time. I've not saved myself any resources though, which is annoying. Oh, and Shiny Capac's here. I added him to get some extra perspectives on this time-lapse build of the Arboretum and living quarters. Since he's away for the weekend, I could get away with using his PC. Alright, I am down at the level I need to be at. Let's clear out this rock in the middle. And I just got to weld it all up. And it is just barely sunrise, so that is pretty good timing. Oh man, doing this sort of mining takes me back. So much of survival may be spent trying to accurately cut out shapes in the underground areas. Once I do that, I reckon it should be pretty safe once I've got the borders down for me to put down half slabs here. It's going to save me a lot of steel. I know I'd lent towards going cautious before, but this should be pretty safe. Because I've got a square edge all the way around. And then the middle, if I just put... Yeah, let's put boxes in here just in case. Oh, too slow. Let's get out of here before that becomes a problem. But yeah, I think I'll go half slabs. I think it is the sensible way to go. Quickly fill up my suit in Manny and then run back to base. A few people had suggested that for the start of my underground bit, what I should have done was build like 2x1 or 3x3 windows so that I could easily weld it from above ground and effectively dig much deeper underground because of it. As in, I wouldn't need to dig quite so near the surface. And the main reason I didn't do that was that I decided that I wanted armor all the way around at ground level. And so trying to place those windows would have been more nightmarish than just placing down the armor plate. I think it's a great idea if you're happy to have the glass intersect with the ground to do it that way, because as they pointed out, you do get deeper underground. And you could probably, if you're on flatter ground, also weld with like a grid welder and penetrate the ground that way. So what I mean by that is just weld with the welders pointing down at the ground, and you may well get everything that's underground without having to dig at all. Now, that wasn't an option here really because of the terrain slope. It was always going to cause me a problem. We should be good to switch. Let me just check with spectator cam what's going on up above here. Yep. Alright, let's switch to slabs.
Energy low.
Save all that steel. Haven't quite beaten the sun, but pretty close. Pretty close. I reckon it'll be fully on show by the time I'm done here, but not too bad. I've got a full day of sunlight to do the rest of the building. One of the reasons I don't do any like time skips of night and day in this is that I really like the sunset and sunrise in the time lapses. And nighttime does add an interesting extra challenge to building when I want you guys to be able to see what the heck is going on. And I like that. I like that challenge because that challenge is an engineering challenge. The challenge with me using GPSs to line up where these blocks were, nah. That's just a grindy challenge to me. I reckon this is only going to take 2 more loads. Then we're done. Sealed underneath. Get back to building above surface. There we go. Sun is on the construction site. Get a move on, Splitsie! Get a move on. Let's get this done. Alrighty. That is all sealed up. Might just go weld round the edges of the thing as well, just to make sure that I have reached all the blocks before I go sealing up the access to under there, since I do intend to seal it up. Oh, Splitsie, you dope. I know how to make Manny more useful with this. Let's just strengthen these back up again. If I load up Manny with components and load up Search's container with components, then I should be balanced, because Manny's weight with those extra components will counterbalance the weight of the container on front. Especially since Manny's cargo capacity is mostly way to the rear. This should work, I think. And also, driving in the daylight means I should be able to much better predict where I'm going to end up. And hopefully not damage the cargo container again. So I can put a few thousand plates in there. Ugh, so much time saved. Although I really do need a way to make it that Manny can, or I have something down there that can refill oxygen bottles. So that's the main reason I'll have to come back otherwise. Alright, Manny, let's see if you're strong enough to do this. That is promising. So I've got a couple of thousand plate here. I can get down the bottom there where those drop pods are. That should be a decent place to park during the day, since I don't need to park anywhere to put light on the situation. Slow, slow, slow. That is full reverse. Trying not to use the brakes because they'll probably stop me too fast and I'll tip over. Okay. Put that down so I don't tip forward if I empty the wrong bit first. Should empty this first. Yeah! Okay, man, it does work. The system does work. Now that I've gotten that little part, the whole underground part of the Arboretum is done. Now I can start designing the outside part, which is good, because the sun is a lot higher in the sky than I'd intended it to be. Right. I would like to use a little bit of steel to support this thing. I want to start with a slopey bit. The only reason not to would be to put lights along the bottom, but no. I will start with a slope. Slope there, and should be able to place the half slab. And then the windows are going to go in between this. I just like to have a little bit of visible armor support for this stuff, usually when I build. So these will go up and over, but I don't think I'm going to have any supports coming from the building. I want the Arboretum to look like it's supporting itself. Now I need to go collect a whole bunch of girders because I'm going to be placing down a whole lot of glass. Alrighty, I want to have a deck at this level as well, I think. Yeah. Let's start with a bit of a stair. Now the advantage of putting these stairs here is that if I want to have a double wide catwalk up the top, I can either place the stairs out here or I can go in one block. Whereas if I'd come in one block, I had to place them on top of each other, which I suppose I could have done actually. You know what? Yeah, I will. Let's do this. So there. Yeah, the stairs over at the top of each other looks nice, I think. Question is, how am I going to get the next stair to sit where I want it to? I think I'll have to start up the top. Oops, don't go in the hole. For this upstairs bit, I want to put some chairs and a table out here, so I need to actually have the grated catwalks upside down, which means I can't really go over this corner piece. Since I'm going to be using these catwalks and then a railing on top. That will mean stairs there, neon tubes, and stairs. There we go. Yeah, that works. I can see it now. I'm not sure if I've described it at all in a way that you guys can see it, but you'll see it soon. It will make sense. What I'd like is to have a 2-block wide balcony, but most of it not be made out of catwalk. Well, I guess I could do it double catwalk. Nah, no, I don't want it to be that big. I don't want it to stick out that far. So I'm going to make it a single block wide. Place you out there. If we get down here, I should be able to place another railing hovering out here. There we are. Perfect. Looks a bit weird if you look closely here, but oh well. Cool. So then what I'll do is be able to place, say, we go with that, and then I can put a couple of more chairs in. We've got like a nice outdoor chill out table slash could even have a conference out here since this is technically indoors but it'll feel outdoors. You will never get rained on, so you could do whatever you like. Yeah. I think that'll work nicely. And then what I do is I place my windows on this block here, which is actually going to occupy some of the indoor space, but I feel that's a small price to pay to get space outside that looks as cool as this. Yeah, this is coming together. This is what I want. As soon as someone suggested balcony or reminded me that I should have put a balcony, this was what I was desiring. This is the sort of style I was wanting to go for. Something that's a little bit modern. And certainly more modern than I'd done in the rest of the build, since the rest of the stuff is very brutal. Similarly to the bottom end, I'm going to use these 2x1 bases here. Then I'm going to have to start thinking about how I build the scaffolding in order to reach everywhere I need to, because welding this thing up is going to take forever using something like the Splitsie, especially with the unstable ground. So I think scaffolding is the way to go. This wall, what I'm going to have to do is stick the glass on the outside, because I need to cover up this whole slope. If I were to put, say, a block like this one here, that will not be airtight. That edge, lining up two edges like that, in Space Engineers, you do not get airtightness, so I have to put a full block here. And that means when I get down to these slopes over here, what I'm going to do is place the full block. Whoops. Like so. Not that one. Then, just so that it looks a bit nicer, I'm going to put the corners in here, so that the window slope does follow the armor, but it doubles up for the slope part of it. Which means this will still be airtight, but it should look a bit nicer than having the stepped bits of window. Right, now that the space is kind of bordered, you can see, I think you can get a much better feel for what I'm going for here. With some of this floor painted in timber, it'll be a much nicer space to be involved in, and that whole idea of having a projector table with a blueprint of a tree design should work a lot better here, because I've got room for it. You can actually walk up here, walk in amongst the trees, and it'll... yeah. This whole space feels much better now that it's this much bigger. I'm pretty sure I'm still within the scale of volume where things will be able to be airtight. This front edge is going to be flat till quite high up. It really needs to be flat all the way up to where it's flat at the back here, because I can't do a lopsided dome easily with Space Engineers glass. What I'm thinking is I bring it all up to the same level, and then I place a dome on top. I'm starting to wonder if I should have built this with railings. I think I probably should have. Need another row of scaffolding, and on that row of scaffolding I'm going to need to bring it in a bit, potentially. You can kind of tell just how long this is going to take to weld up. This thing is getting huge, and I just think with the slope, I'd be taking a bit too much of a risk to try and weld this up with a vehicle. I do want to build a welding vehicle, so something that's a crane with a welder on the end of it, but I just don't think that this is the building to try it on, because I'm building on such a horrible slope. Something on a flatter ground, like something if I build any sort of structure behind the assembly and construction hangar. Something back there is quite level ground, so I should be able to build it with, say, a welding vehicle. I do want one of them, as it will save a bit of time if I can make one that works well. Oh, I'm out of construction components. Some of you might be wondering why I keep using the single glass panes when I could, particularly with this wall, have a 3x3 or have a couple of 3x3s. The reason I like the single panes is because you can't use any sort of combined panes for these side pieces. Having all of the glass broken up in the same pattern, to me, I think looks better than having some of it broken up with 2x1s and some of it broken up 1x1. I think that just kind of looks a bit... yeah, I've just never been a fan of that look. So I tend to go with all of it being the same way. Now, there is something I should point out with these slopes. Oh, hang on. Let me get some oxygen. Then I'll talk about that. So with these slopes, say I'm building these vertically, this will look different to that when they're finished. You can see that edge piece looking at me, and then if you compare it to that one, so what I need to do, and I hope I have done, is line up all of these ones in these large vertical sections to be oriented the same way. And if I haven't, some of them are going to look funny and I'm not going to know until I've fully welded it up, which sucks. So there may be some fiddling and replacing to be done there, and it'll be the same for these sloped sections that go towards the roof. Instead of having all these edges come together nice and neatly, I'm going to create a little bit of a different shape on the corner here by putting, so I can line it up, by putting that there. I'll do the same down this end, and I'll do the same on the building side of things too. The idea being that it just, I don't know, just creates a bit of a Ooh, that's a gap. A bit of a different shape. It'll be the same over here. This goes into there. On the building side, that means that what I'll end up with is a full block there and a slope there. I've deliberately made this shape a fair bit irregular because I think it makes it more interesting to look at. I have misplaced these armor blocks. They are meant to be on this block to line up with the stuff at the other end. Does that mean I've misplaced all these windows? No, no. I have not. Misplaced all these though. This is meant to be here, because then that's the 3-block gap that's at the other side. They weren't going to line up. Oh, I'm so glad I noticed that now. Could have been all sorts of problems. Let's go with clear window so that I've got an attachment. What I thought I could do at the back, front, whatever you want to call this bit here, was put the doubled air vents. And I could put a pair of them down like that, and then just put the air vents on the inside. That way, whenever I need to pressurize the space, I can turn on this set of air vents, and it should pressurize the volume a little bit, well, at least at a reasonable pace, given that there's a double. So I wish I could still run away from the cargo ships. It's so annoying that I don't have a use for the absconder at the moment, because...
Energy low.
That's what I used to do. Just remembered, I do have a use for the absconder if I want to. So ever since I started putting Steve and Capac inside my base, I haven't had any potential advantage to running away from the drones, because they're going to cause the drones to spawn anyway. But if I were to move them high up in the sky or deep underground, then I will be able to run away and get away from the drones that way. So I need to remember that. At some point, either decide to move Steve and Capac deep underground, which is what I'd done previously, or just accept that I can't use the absconder. One of the two. I'll think about that before next time and hopefully come up with a decision. Oh, this is an easier way to place scaffolding. Oh, my power is incredibly low. This might have been really dumb. Get out, get out, get out, get out. It's going to be faster. Come on, crane. Oh yeah. 1 power remaining. Need to go 1 block higher so that I can comfortably clear the top of this tree. Then we're good. I just need to figure out a way to get onto the roof so that I can build the stuff on top of it. It is getting very difficult. Like, you guys are probably finding it difficult to see what's where. I am also finding it difficult. Like, the backs of these catwalks are really hard to see, even though my lights are on. They do not show up much at all. So using these scaffolds at night is terrifying. So what I might do is spend an entire night welding, I guess. I could. No. I'm going to get just a bit more done. I want to get a bit more done. I want to lay down the rest of these blocks. I want to get this dome finished today, because then what I can do before the start of next episode is do similarly to what I did for... What do I do it for? Something. Do the time lapse at the beginning of an episode so that I can have this whole thing welded up, and then we can start working on some other projects, like turning this into the production facility for the daily needs blocks, and then deciding on a location to start designing some drones and then building the facility to support that, because that obviously... I guess I could design the first drones in the construction hangar, couldn't I? That'll speed up moving on to actually getting a drone, and then once I've got the size, I should be able to work with that to make a, yeah, to make the building fit for the size that I'm making. Yes, this works. Okay. So that's as far up as we need to go, because the glass will be above. Let's use 2x1 slopes and half armor. Ooh. Problem. Can't place those down because I then can't walk past. Need a new set of stairs. Oh, right. Once I make a thing to walk on the top, I don't need this. Oh, I'm such a dope. Ah, Splitsie, why? You didn't need to build the scaffolding on the inside. Once you started working on the slopes, all you needed was a way to walk up to the slope, and you can walk around on the glass on the outside, and it's much safer. What a waste. Oh well. I've done dumber things. This is what happens when you stay up late reading about new graphics cards. You get tired, and you do even dumber things than you normally would. Because yes, I am very excited about the new NVIDIA graphics cards coming out, and might have spent a little too much time lately reading about things and trying to figure out where, due to where I am in the world, I might be able to get hold of such things. Because even in places that usually have stock, they've struggled. Cool. I have a way up to the outside, and all it took was a single stair. Why, Splitsie? Why? I need to do this glass on top. I put them around the wrong way. Better I fix them now, because I'm going to forget which bit I've messed up later. It's the regular flat that I want. I have to have the tinting the right way. What I've been doing when I place any of the windows over the armor blocks to get extra attachment points is I've been placing the clear side so that we're looking straight through to the armor, making the glass a lot less obvious. A little hard to tell in this light, but I'll hopefully remember to show it off when I welded this up. I forgot to place the armor blocks, but I can do that from the inside, so I can't weld them up properly from out here anyway. I have a complete dome. I'm going to quickly grab some power before I do my outro. Because I don't want to die during my outro. Oh, I should have gone up to my base because I need to get oxygen too. Of course.
Energy low.
So, as I was saying before I got rudely interrupted by being near death, that is the dome complete, or at least completely laid out. For this building, it's going to be a fairly simple structure. All I'm going to do is pretty much fill in this floor, since I don't need to have internal access between the levels. And filling in this floor means I can place down more of my living quarters type blocks, even though I've got these bits of glass occupying that whole row down the side. The idea will be living quarters on this floor, and then down on the bottom floor will be all my daily needs blocks. Again, making me feel more justified in having only internal access through the Arboretum, going down here to where all those blocks will be. I guess if I can think of a way to do it, I could put an external access airlock down here, but I might leave that to be a later project. My plan is to have the main access airlock right here. So you walk in, you've got the beds, chairs, and you've got a nice view at some big windows off to the east to watch the sunrise. And you should be able to watch the sunset from inside the Arboretum. So as I said, next time what I'm going to do is start off again with another time lapse. I'm going to try and weld up as much of this as possible so that I can just lay out the design of the interior blocks in here, weld them up again in a separate time lapse, so that it's pretty much design, the floor layout, and the daily needs layout, and then get straight on to building a drone. A drone with the aim of being relatively cheap, quite quick, and potentially capable of taking on at least the drones from a cargo ship. As it turns out, Lucas has added yet another nasty surprise to the Reavers, which means I need to be able to defend myself down here as well as up at the launch air. Basically, wherever I am, there is a small, but not zero, risk of me getting attacked by Reavers. So when this building is done, I am focusing on defense and then focusing on getting back to the launch air so I can then eventually get some silver, I hope. So there's all that and plenty more to come, and I will see you then.